They say Halloween is when the veil thins, but nobody tells you what happens when it tears. My name is Daniel Holt, and I used to believe scary stories were just stories, urban legends. Folklore, campfire, tailies. Meant to sell candy and thrill-seek. That changed last October, when I agreed to host a true Halloween stories livestream from a condemned house on the edge of Ashwick Hollow. It was supposed to be harmless fun, a challenge for my channel's 200,000 subscribers. Spend the night in the Harper House, my fans begged. Read real Halloween encounters sent by viewers. Easy content, sheep fear. But Ashwick locals had a rule about that place. No one speaks its name on October 31st, they said. The house remembers. The Harper House sat a mile beyond the tree line, where the town's main road turned to gravel and the woods began to choke the sky. Every local kid had a rumor about it, doors that whispered your name, windows that reflected faces that weren't yours, and a cellar door that led nowhere. I drove up at dusk, wind scraping dead leaves across the hood, the air heavy with petrichor and rot. The house loomed out of the fog, 3 stories of mildew and blackened brick, its windows like rotted teeth. My flashlight beam hit the front door, warped and half open, as though the house had been expecting me. Inside smelled like wet paper and something else. Something sour, like meat left too long in the dark. My crew was supposed to join me, friends who handled cameras and sound, but they detexted an hour earlier. Car broke down, but tears so on. So I started alone. The main room was a museum of decay. Wallpaper curled like old skin, dust hung in the air like fog, and a cracked mirror by the staircase distorted my reflection into something taller, thinner. I set up my tripod, adjusted my mic, and pressed record. "Happy Halloween, everyone," I said, forcing a grin. "Tonight, I'm reading your true horror stories from inside the infamous Harper House. Let's see if we can make it till sunrise." The chat on my phone exploded. Ghost emojis. You're insane. Watch your back. All the usual stuff. I started reading. The first story was from a girl in Ohio about hearing her dead brother whisper through baby monitors. The second came from a guy in Scotland who claims something knocked on his window every year on Halloween, no matter where he lived. Halfway through the third story, the connection lagged. The live stream feed flickered. My phone vibrated. Comments flooded in faster than I could read. "Someone's behind you. Dude, move. Is that your friend?" He spun around, camera light slicing through the dust. Nothing. The doorway to the hall was empty, only darkness shifting like smoke. I laughed it off. Nice try. Chat? Not falling for it. But when I played back the footage later, the doorway wasn't empty. For 3 seconds, something was standing there, something pale, too tall, with hands pressed flat against the wall like it was trying to push through it. By 10:30 p.m., my crew still hadn't shown. My calls went straight to voicemail. The house creaked, as if someone were pacing upstairs. Slow, uneven steps. I told myself it was settling wood, wind, rats, anything. But what it sounded like. Then came the scratching. It started behind the walls, light and deliberate, a slow drag of nails along plaster, circling the room. I tried to keep reading, voice shaking as I held my phone like a lifeline. "Next story," I said. "Submitted by a viewer named, Red H. Wait." The message stopped me. The email subject line read, "True Halloween Story for Daniel Holt." I hadn't noticed that before. The story began. "You shouldn't have gone into the Harper House alone. It doesn't like when people record it. It remembers the last one who tried." My mouth went dry. I scrolled down. "When the scratching starts, don't move. Don't look for it. If you make eye contact, it will learn your face." The scratching stopped. "If it stops before midnight, that means it's behind you." I froze. My flashlight flickered once, twice, then died. The only sound left was my own breathing. I don't remember much after that. My stream cut out around 10:46 p.m., though viewers claimed it kept going. They said they saw me turn toward the camera, whisper something they couldn't make out, and then the screen went black. The next thing I remember It was dawn. I was outside, sitting on the gravel road, the house behind me glowing faintly in the mist. My phone was in my hand, the battery dead. When I checked the footage later, I saw something impossible. In the last seconds of the video, the camera pans by itself toward the staircase, and there, halfway up, stood a figure with my face. It looked directly into the lens and said, in my voice, "Let's tell another true story. The police found my cruise car abandoned less than a mile away. Engine running, doors open. No sign of struggle, just a smell of burnt wood inside." They never found the others. That was a year ago. Tomorrow is Halloween again, and I've started receiving new emails each, titled, "True Story for Daniel Holt." They describe things I haven't done yet, places I haven't gone, words I haven't spoken, and the last one ended with a line that chills me every time I read it. "Don't you forget to finish your story inside the house this year. It's warting." I didn't sleep the night before Halloween. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the staircase from that Viotha. Pale copy of me, frozen halfway up, eyes glinting in the dark like two pieces of glass. I told myself it was an editing glitch. Some troll had hacked my footage. Maybe deepfake tech, but then the emails kept coming. At first, one every few days, then one every hour. By the morning of October 31st, I had 37 unread messages, all from addresses that didn't exist when I tried to reply. Each had the same subject line, "True Story for Daniel Holt," and each one described something that hadn't happened yet. The first email that morning said, "You will smell earth when it wakes." The second, "The voices aren't outside the house. They're behind the walls." The third included an attachment, a black and white photo of the Harper House from the night before, except the windows were lit. Every single one. I checked the metadata. Timestamp. Today. 3:14 a.m. But the house had been abandoned for decades. I went to the police once, right after last year's stream. They didn't believe me then. "Ghost stories for the internet," one officer said. "You got your views, didn't you?" He wasn't wrong. My subscriber count had exploded after that night. The clip of me glitching out in the Harper House hit 10 million views. Everyone debated what I said before the stream cut. Some claimed it sounded like he's coming up. Others thought it was "help me." But I know what I said. I remember whispering it, like something else was forcing it out of my throat. "It's already here." At 6 p.m. on Halloween, my doorbell rang. I hadn't told anyone where I lived. Through the peephole, I saw a man standing perfectly still on the porch. A worn, old-fashioned coat, gray and dusty, the kind you'd see in a 1940s photograph. In his left hand, he held a small tape recorder. In his right, a folded piece of paper. I didn't open the door. He slid the note under it and walked away. No hesitation, no glancy bike. Who's that slow, deliberate pace down the walkway until he vanished into the fog. The note said only, "You left the story unfinished." And below that, a date and time. October 31st, 10:46 p.m. The exact minute my stream had cut off last year. That was when I decided I had to go back. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe obsession. Maybe the house had already started whispering to me through those emails. Primero told myself I'd film a documentary, Harper House. The truth behind the livestream. Closure. That's what I told myself. I packed my Gear 2 cameras, a flashlight, and a backup battery. I printed the emails, just in case I could trace the IP addresses later. Then I started the drive into Ashwick Hollow. By the time I reached the tree line, the fog was so thick my headlights barely pierced it. The air smelled like damp stone. My phone had no signal. The Harper House was waiting exactly where I'd left it. But something was different. The front door was wide open, hinges groaning softly in the wind, and there were footprints in the mud leading inside, bare footprints. I followed them into the main hall. The wallpaper looked worse wet, sloughing off the walls in gray ribbons. The mirror by the stairs was gone, replaced by a black, slick stain that reflected no light at all. "Okay," I muttered to the camera. "We're back in Harper House. No crew this time, just me. Let's find out what's real." The moment I spoke, the house seemed to listen. The air stilled. Even the usual creaks and sighs fell silent. Then came the smell. Wet earth. Exactly like the first email had said. I swept the flashlight across the floor. The footprints stopped halfway into the living room, then literally sank into the boards, like whoever had walked there had gone straight down through the floor. I heard the scratching again. Behind the walls. Slow, circling, patient. My heart stuttered. I pressed my ear to the plaster, and a faint whisper came through like someone humming through their teeth. I pulled back, trembling, camera still rolling. The email, second line echoed in my mind. The voices are on T. Outside the house, there behind the walls. I turned toward the staircase. The top floor was a gulf of darkness, but there was something up their movement, slow and deliberate, as if someone was leaning over the railing to watch me. The flashlight trembled in my hand. Who's there? Silence. Then a single knock from above. Not on wood, on glass, like something tapping from inside a window pane. I started backing toward the door. Every instinct screamed to run, but before I could move another step, the front door slammed shut with a sound like a gunshot. My flashlight flickered, went out, and for one blind heartbeat, I felt something breathed near my ear. Then my phone buzzed. I looked down. New email. No signal, no Wi-Fi, but somehow there it was. From no address subject, true story. For Daniel Holt body. Don't leave, you're not finished. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely read the rest. H10 y 46. It wants you to tell the last story. If you refuse it, we'll tell it for you. I checked the time. 10:42 p.m. The house began to hum, blew at first, like wind through hollow pipes, then deeper, vibrating in my ribs. My camera feed distorted the light, pulsing like a heartbeat. I stumbled into the living room and saw the old mirror again, propped against the wall where I swore there hadn't been one before. It wasn't reflecting me. It showed the staircase and the version of me still standing there, exactly as in last year's footage, except now, its eyes moved. It raised a finger and pointed directly toward the mirror's surface. I don't know why I did it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe some compulsion that wasn't mine. I stepped closer, and from the other side, my reflection smiled. 10:46 p.m. The glass rippled like water. I felt a hand cold, strong grab my wrist from the other side. The camera dropped, skittering across the floor. The last thing it recorded was my voice, distant and muffled. Okay, let's tell the last story. When you woke up, I was still inside the Harper House. But the air was wrong. Everything smelled like old dirt and candle wax. The floorboards beneath me were dry, not damp anymore. Dust floated upward, slow as ash, and the windows where they should have been shattered were sealed over with something black and pulsing, like congealed tar. My flashlight was gone. My camera lay nearby, still recording. The red light blinked lazily, as though time itself had slowed, and when I looked toward the staircase, the figure was gone. But the mirror was still there. I should have run. I should have smashed my way through whatever sealed the doors, but I didn't. The air pressed against me like water, thick and humming. I could feel the house breathing again. Every inhale came through the floor, through the walls, through me. My phone buzzed. Somehow, the screen still worked. Another email. Subject: You're inside the story now. The message read, Look to your left. You'll see where it started. I turned. The wallpaper there had peeled away to reveal words carved directly into the wood beneath. Dozens of them names. Dates. Phrases. I brushed the dust away. Each name was followed by the same inscription. Told the story. Some of the carvings were recent, others nearly erased with age. The last one stopped me cold. Daniel Holt. October 31st, jam 10:46 p.m. That was last year's date. My stomach turned to ice. Primera ba. sked away, tripping over the camera. And when I steadied myself, I saw something new. Someone or something had written fresh words on the mirror in what looked like condensation. "Tell it again." I whispered into the empty room. "Tell what again?" No answer. Then a sounder, wet pop, like something being pulled through mud from inside the walls. I stepped back as a crack split open down the center of the mirror, and something began pushing through. It wasn't glass breaking, it was stretching. A pale hand, long-fingered and trembling, slid out from behind the reflection, clutching the air as though it were climbing through. Another hand followed, and then I saw the face, my face. It wasn't a perfect copy. The features were wrong. The eyes too pale, too wide. The mouth too still. It crawled halfway out, torso twisting, head cocked at an unnatural angle. When it spoke, the voice echoed from the walls around me instead of its throat. "You left the story unfinished." I stumbled backward. "What are ya?" The thing smiled. Its teeth were too even like carved ivory. "You are." The lights from the camera began to strobe. The red blink quickened until it became a steady pulse. The reflection that thing turned toward it, and wherever it looked, the image glitched and blurred. I reached for the camera instinctively, but my copy hissed sharp and sudden. "Keep recording," it said. "It wants to hear it. Finish it." My hand froze mid-air, trembling. I whispered. The floor groaned. Beneath the boards, something shifted, like a body rolling just below the surface of the wood. The thing that looked like me turned its head toward the ceiling. "You feel it, don't you?" It sighed softly. "The house isn't haunted. It's hungry." The sound of footsteps echoed upstairs. Slow. Measured. Coming down. I turned toward the staircase, every instinct screaming that what was walking toward me wasn't human. The steps stopped at the landing. I couldn't see anything, there's just darkness so thick it seemed to move on its own. My reflection climbed the rest of the way out of the mirror, standing beside me now, naked and colorless, its skin like paper left too long in rain. "Go ahead," it whispered. "Tell it. Tell the truth." "I don't know what you mean," I shouted. It leaned close, its cold breath touching my ear. "Tell them what you did last Halloween." I shook my head, but memory hit me like a flash flood last year, before the stream, before I even went inside. My crew, Liam, Brooke, and Evan. We were supposed to go together, but when their car broke down, I went ahead alone, thinking I'd get bonus views for being the brave one, except the car hadn't broken down. I remember now, the fog. Their voices calling me from the tree line, then the light from the house, flickering like a heartbeat, pulling me forward. And when I turned back, they were gone. No crash. No noise. Just gone. The doppelganger smiled wider, eyes glistening with something that looked like pity. "You left them here," it said, "and the house took your story in exchange. Now it needs another." It turned to the camera, speaking directly into the lens. "Say the words, Daniel. Say, I will finish it." I shook my head, but the walls began to move, bulging inward, like lungs exhaling. Behind the plaster, I saw shapes' faces pressed against it, mouths open in silent screams. One of them looked like Brooke, another like Evan. The third, God help me, had its eyes open and moving, tracking me as though alive. "Say it," my reflection hissed. "Before they do." The walls split open. Hands poured out. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all reaching, grasping, clawing for me. The air filled with that smell again, wet, earth and rot, and something older. I grabbed the camera, screaming, "I'll finish it. I'll finish it." Instant silence. The hands froze meter, trembling. Then, slowly, they retreated back into the walls. My reflection smiled and stepped back toward the mirror. "Good," it whispered. "But remember, stories must end differently the second time." "What do you mean?" I yelled. It glanced up toward the ceiling, And then I heard its soft laughter from above, the sound of 3 voices overlapping. My crew. They were alive, or something wearing their voices was. I turned the camera toward the stairs. Every step I took upward creaked like a heartbeat. The air grew colder, heavier. My flashlight flickered weakly back to life, showing faint red stains on the wall. At the top, the hallways stretched impossibly long, lined with doors that hadn't been there before. From behind one came Brooke's voice. Daniel. Help us. I swallowed hard, every nerve screaming. Hold on, I'm coming. But when I opened that door, there was no room at all. Only blackness, and from that darkness, something smiled back. Then the mirror downstairs shattered, and I heard my own voice whisper from the shards. You shouldn't have told it again. The moment the mirror shattered, the house exhaled long, guttural, like it had been holding its breath for a year. Dust billowed up the staircase, coating my tongue with a taste like old pennies and soil. The hallway lights flared once, then dimmed to a heartbeat pulse. Every door began breathing. The panels expanded and contracted, groaning with a strain, as though each led not to a room, but to something alive. And then I heard my name again, whispered from everywhere. Daniel, a chorus of familiar voices. Liam, Brooke. Evan I ran toward. The sound. Camera clutched in one hand. Light swinging wildly. Each time I passed a doorway, something flickered in the corner of my eye. Outline of a person, still and gray, watching. At the end of the hall, a door stood half. The air pouring from it was colder than outside in winter. I could see my breath in its frame. Brooke, I said, voice trembling. No answer. Evan. Liam. A whisper floated out, soft and cracked, as if spoken through water. Come, finish what you started. Inside was a staircase that spiraled down. That shouldn't have been possible. Harper House only had a small cellar. But this was deeper. The walls were slick with condensation. Old photographs were nailed to them, hundreds of them, all water-damaged. As I descended, my flashlight beam passed over one photo after another, reach showing a person standing in front of the Harper House. Different decades, different faces, but always the same eyes. The last one stopped me cold. It was me. From last year, except in the photo, there was someone behind me, pale. Hand resting on my shoulder. The stairs ended in a wide, earthen room lit by dozens of candles. The smell of wax and rot was suffocating, and they were there. My crew. Or what was left of them. Liam stood nearest, skin stretched too tight across his bones, his eyes cloudy and wet. Brooke sat slumped beside him, head jerking slightly, as though strings held her upright. Evan was on his knees, whispering something to himself over and over. We told it, we told it, we told it. When Brooke's head lifted, her jaw unhinged far too wide. You came back, she said. Voice doubled. One human and one not. It's almost time. I stumbled backward, tripping on the uneven ground. What is this? I shouted. What do you want from me? Liam's head twitched. It doesn't want you, Daniel. He raised a hand and pointed upward. It wants them, I echoed. Evan turned, eyes wide and empty. The ones watching, the ones who listen. I realized then the camera was still recording, still streaming. The red light blinked steadily. Somehow, impossibly, it was live. And through the tiny screen, I saw comments, thousands of them. Is this real? WTF is happening? Dude, this looks too good to be fake. He's gonna die on Streamlo. Every viewer watching, every person listening, they were feeding it. The walls of the room began to pulse, as though the earth itself had veins. The candlelight flickered faster. My friends' bodies twitched in unison, marionettes pulled by an unseen hand. Brooke's voice echoed again, now layered with dozens of others. Every Halloween, one must tell the story. One must keep it alive. Primera ba, Sked Hawaii. holding the camera up like a shield. You mean the live stream? It feeds on the story. Liam nodded slowly. His mouth opened wider than it should have, words spilling from his throat like smoke. It's not a house, Daniel. It's a mouth. The stories are its food. The humming in the walls turned to a deep growl. Something beneath the dirt began to move. I turned to run, but the staircase was gone, swallowed by the wall. Panic rose, sharp in my chest. The only exit now was a tunnel at the far side of the chamber, low and jagged, breathing out hot air like the mouth of a furnace. Behind me, the three of them began to sing. Not a song, a pattern. Words repeated over and over, rhythmic and wrong. Tell it again. Tell it again. Tell it again. The ground trembled. I aimed the camera at them, the lens flickering from static to image to black. Through the distortion, I saw something else, shapes moving through their bodies, stretching their skin from within, faces pressed against their torsos, screaming soundlessly before sinking back under. The house was wearing them. I ran for the tunnel, crawling through its narrow throat, dirt collapsing behind me. My flashlight sputtered out completely, but the camera light kept flashing, showing glimpses of symbols carved into the wall's circles. Eyes, open mouths. The further I crawled, the louder the whispering grew. It wasn't just my name anymore. It was every name I'd read from the carvings upstairs, every person who'd ever told the story, and mixed among them new voices. Hundreds. Streaming viewers. I could hear them. Their usernames, their laughter, their disbelief. The house was pulling them in through metering attention into invitation. The tunnel opened into another room, smaller, round. A single object stood in the center, an old wooden podium, and on it, a laptop. My laptop, the same one from last year. It was already open. The stream was live. Viewers still commenting, thousands of them, and in the corner of the frame my face. But it wasn't me holding the camera. The reflection of me stood there, pristine and smiling, clothes spotless, eyes glintine. Welcome back, Daniel, it said, turning toward me. You made it in time. I raised the camera like a weapon. You're not real. It smiled. Neither are you. It gestured toward the screen. They're watching. Finish the story. I'm not feeding it again, I yelled. The reflection laughed, soft and hollow. Then it will feed on you instead. The ground beneath me split open, and something enormous began to rise, black tendrils coiling up from the dirt, slick with mud and veins of light. They twisted around the walls, pulsing with the rhythm of a heartbeat. The reflection's voice dropped to a whisper. Tell it, Daniel. Tell the true story, the one about what you did to survive. My mouth went dry, because I remembered. When the house had taken them last year, Brooke, Liam and I hadn't just run. I'd bargained. I told it I'd come back, with more stories, wheat, more eyes, the live stream, the fame. The views. Every time someone watched, they were offering a piece of themselves, and I'd build the altar. The reflection stepped closer, hand outstretched. Confess it, it whispered. Tell them, he be at wards. And he will let you go. I looked into the camera, Lenstausen still watching, hearts and laughing emojis flying across the screen. None of them knew what they were feeding. And I said, I made a deal. The moment the words left my mouth, the tendrils froze. The ground went still. But then the reflection smiled wider. You did, it said softly, and now it's time to keep it. It reached out and pulled me through the lens. Everything inverted, light, sound, breath. I fell into static and screaming pixels. Faces blurred past me, viewers' faces, each one vanishing into a smear of gray. Then silence, and I was standing again in the same room, in front of the camera. But the reflection wasn't there anymore. It was me. The laptop screen flickered, and text appeared across it. Thank you for telling the story. The feed will continue. Stay tuned for part 2. I realized, with sinking horror, that it wasn't talking to me. It was talking to them. To everyone still watching. It's been 3 days since Halloween. 3 days since the live stream ended, or rather, since I ended. At least, the part of me that could still tell where the story stopped and where it began. The video's still online. True Halloween stories. Uncut. 16 million views. Thousands of comments. Most people think it's fiction. They debate the lighting, the editing, the practical effects. But the real horror isn't in the video. It's in what comes after. Because every person who watches it gets an email. Subject line. True story for your name. The house remembers its audience now. I can feel it. Even here. Wherever here is. It's not the house anymore. It's bigger. It's in the wires. T. Cameras. T. Stories. T. Stories. Sometimes I see flashes of my old apartment. The flicker of my computer screen. The microphone glowing faintly in the dark. But when I blink, it's gone. Replaced by that same decaying wallpaper pattern, the one from Harper House. I think I brought it with me. No, that's wrong. It brought me. The last thing I remember before everything inverted was the faces. Hundreds of faces through. The camera lens viewers. Gasping. Laughing. Typing. Their light fed it like oxygen. And when it pulled me through the feed, it didn't stop with me. For one split second, I felt it reach back through every device watching. Through every signal and drag pieces of them with it. Their voices echo here now, whispering through the static. Don't pause the video. Finish the story. It's still watching. Sometimes I wake to the sound of typing, keys clicking on their own. The cursor moves across a blank document, spelling words I don't control. Part SIX recording. I delete the text every time. I unplug the camera. I shut down the feed. But it always reappears. The red recording light never turns off. And when I look into the lens, I don't see myself anymore. I see whoever's watching. 2 nights ago, I tried to trace the email address from one of the new True Story messages. It led to an IP that doesn't exist, a dead address, bouncing endlessly in digital loops. But then, a notification appeared on the corner of my screen. Incoming file Harper_feed_1.mov. It downloaded by itself. Inside was footage grainy, handheld from a new person's camera. A teenage boy, maybe 16, filming in his bedroom. He was reading one of my viewers' stories. Laughing. Mocking. Then the screen behind him flickered. Frame by frame, you could see something appear in the reflection of his monitor. A tall, pale figure, head tilted slightly to one side. My face. The police report said the boy went missing the next morning. His computer was found still recording a live feed. The comments were identical to mine from a year ago. Someone's behind you. This looks fake, but it's so creepy. He's not moving. It's spreading. Each retelling opens a new door. Each share. A new mouth, and each viewer, whether they believe or not, feeds it a little more. I've tried to warn people. I've sent messages through burner accounts, old forums, even dark web threads. Most get deleted within minutes. Others come back, changed, rewritten, in someone else's tone, like the house correcting me. One night, I managed to post a full message. Don't watch the Harper House video. Don't say my name. Don't tell the story again. Within an hour, it had 1,000 shares and was trending on TikTok. People were reenacting it, and in every clip, if you freeze the last frame, you can see a figure just behind them. Always the same long fingers, half a smile, my eyes. I think that's the real curse. It doesn't want fear. It wants retelling. That's why it kept whispering, tell it again. Every repetition makes it real in another place. Every recounting gives it another mouth to speak through. I was the first in years to give it a global audience. And now, I think it's no longer bound to the house. The Harper House was just a cocoon. What crawled out is older, hungrier, and learning to wear our stories like skin. Primera. No. Even between the words I write, the faint sound of scratching digital this time, like data trying to burrow through code. My emails are filling up again, each subject line slightly altered. True story. For you. True story. For them. True story. For everyone watching. It's not just me anymore. If you've read this you've pictured the house, the mirror, the faces in the walls, then you've opened it a little wider. You've let it see you. You might even hear it tonight. That slow scrape on the other side of your wall. That whisper of your name when you're sure you're alone. If you do, don't turn around. Don't check your reflection. And whatever you do, don't tell this story out loud, because that's how it finds you. Epilogue found footage. Transcript recovered from Daniel Holt's channel. Video begins in darkness. The camera shakes as someone breathes heavily. Then a faint glow illuminates Daniel's face, gaunt, eyes wide, whispering directly into the lens. It's still recording. I can't stop it. If you see this, don't freezes. His gaze shifts to something just off screen. No. Please. Not again. A whisper overlays his voice. Tell it again. Then static. The camera falls. For a moment, the frame captures Daniel's reflection on the floor smiling, though his body isn't. Static swells, then resolves into a new face. The viewers. The video ends abruptly. The channel now auto-uploads new videos every Halloween night. Different people each time. Different houses. Same title. True Halloween Stories Live. If you ever see it in your feed, don't click. Because once you do, the story remembers you, and it will want you to tell it next.